Hello everyone, this is an example of how to build a plugin for Xojo using Xojo 2022 r1.1 and using Visual Studio 2022 with C++. So without further ado, let's dig into it. And this is building it from scratch. So before you get started in Visual Studio, make sure that the desktop development with C++ is checked off and that you've installed it. Then what we do is we end up starting Visual Studio 22, and I've created a folder called AddTwo plug, and this is the open file folder for it. So I'm going to be putting all my stuff into here while we're building it all. So we'll start off with Visual Studio 2022. We'll create a new project. And what we're going to do is we're going to search for DLL. And on here, we're going to want to choose the dynamic link library with exports. And that'll set the default settings. So on here, I want to make sure that it goes to my folder here. So I'll make sure that it ends up being there. I will select the folder, and let's call this AddTwo num for adding two numbers together. And we'll create it. So right now Visual Studio is assembling all the information. It's created a folder, and here's our solution, and we have inside here we have our headers and CPP files. So with Xojo, there's some stuff that we don't need and some stuff that we do need to put into here. So what we'll do is, now that I have created this, I'll minimize this, I'm going to go to Xojo, it's my installation with Xojo in C Program Files, because it's a 64-bit, and click on Xojo. I'm going to go into the 2.2, and we're going to find the extras and plugin SDK. So in here, we're going to have some includes. So we're going to be taking some of these files and putting them into this area. So we're going to need, let's get rid of some of this information first. So in the Visual Studio project, I'm going to open up the header files and open up the source files. And we're going to delete the framework H and the pc.h. So I'm going to push delete. It's like, do you want to remove or just delete them? So removing will just remove the link to it. Delete will remove the link and the file. We don't need this, so we can literally remove the file. The other one is we can get rid of the DLL main and the PCH CPP. Again, push delete, delete the link and the file. Okay, so in here, I'm going to copy the RB plugin H, the real plugin H, so that's number 2, the RB plugin CPP.h, the win header, and I'm going to copy those and I'm going to paste them into this folder here. Okay, so paste that. So now they're in the folder. While I already have them highlighted, I'm going to drag them into my header. So now all the references are there. Okay, I need to do that also with the CPP file. So going back to the plugin STD SDK, we'll go to the glue code, grab the plugin main, which is what we need, copy that, copy that and place it into the same file. Again, we want to take plugin main now that we've copied it and add it to our source file, so that way we keep our header files and our CPP files separate. Okay. All right, so with that, we now need to change some settings in Visual Studio. So we're going to change this to release, keep it as a 64-bit, and we're going to remove the precompiled header. So we right-click on the AddTwo num, so our project. We're going to check on properties. We're going to go to configuration properties. Then we're going to go to the C++. We're going to find the precompiled header. We're going to highlight this and we're going to backspace. And on here we're going to backspace this because we don't need the precompiled header. We're going to apply it and press OK. All right, now with that, we've got Visual Studio almost set up. On here, what I can do is then we're going to get AddTwo num CPP, and we have AddTwo num H. These are the two files that we're going to be working with. So we can delete everything that's in here. All right. And I have some code that's already been made. And we can include our win header, so we've already included that, which is here. And also the RB plugin H, which is here. So we have to say what the name of the method is that we're going to be using. So in our case, we're going to be having a forward declaration, which is a nice way of saying what's the method going to be called before we do it. We're going to be having a method called AddTwo, which we're going to add 2 integers. And in C++, you do int first, which means it's an integer. Then we're going to have an x and an integer, which is a y. And it's going to return the answer, which is also going to be an integer. And in the header, we're going to also declare what our definition is going to be. So this is for Xojo to be able to have it work within the framework. So we're going to say that the C++ method is going to be AddTwo. We're going to say there's real no implementation. And this is what we need to make sure that this is absolutely correctly the way that it's going to happen in Xojo. So if I were to make a mistake here and go integer as x, I'm going to get an error on the Xojo side. So I have to make sure that this is syntactically correct. Okay, and so we're going to take an x as an integer in Xojo, y as an integer in Xojo, and we're going to return an integer, which is the same what we were saying up here for our forward declaration. Okay. Now in the AddTwo num CPP, we can get rid of all of this, and what we need to do is we need to include the AddTwo num header file. So that's the header file that we just made up here. And we're going to put our declaration, in or our method. So we need to say that we're going to be using this exact same format that we used here, which is this, except we ended it with a colon. But except here, we're going to start our open curly bracket, and we're going to have a closed curly bracket to close it. That's how C++ does it. And we're going to return the sum of the x value and the y value, and it's going to be returned as an integer. I missed some of it, so I'm going to copy the rest of it. Okay, so we still have that part up there. Now in here, this is the real module definition. So this is a module, not a class. And you always keep it as the K current real version, control version, which means it's the latest version. We have to say what the name of our class, actually it's our module, that's going to be shown to the user. And the method name is test. Now this is what we put into here. So test module methods is the method name that is kept in here. So test module methods. This is an array, so we have curly brackets. We can put quite a few methods in here, and one of the methods is AddTwo. So we're just going to call that information that's already in the array. So going back here, so it's going to say the method names are in here in this array, which is great. Then we also have to calculate the size of the methods. So using this, we use size of test methods, test module methods, and real method definition. We don't have any constants in this one, and we don't have any properties, so we're just keeping those at nil. And the last section is to actually register the module by using the void plugin entry, and we're going to say AddTwo definition, which is this. This is our real module definition that we have to use. All right. Now, when I go and try and compile this, so it's a release, it's at 64, build, I'm going to rebuild a solution, and I'm probably going to get an error, right? So it says, cannot open the include file, RB plugin deprecated. No such file or directory. So I need to make sure that that is also included. For some reason it's required. So we'll go back and we'll get the deprecated includes deprecated. We'll copy and we'll paste that in here. And then when we paste that back in there, we will also include it back with our header files, and we'll retry it again. So build, clean the solution, rebuild the solution, and we still have another error. So on here it says, this is a deprecated declaration. So what I found with this is I need to actually, comment this information out. I'm not sure why. Maybe somebody from Xojo will be able to tell me. But I know that if I declare it out, I will build, I'll clean my solution, and I'm going to rebuild a solution, and we'll check and see. We have one succeeded. Fantastic. It's working the way that it should. All right, now that we've got that happening, I'm going to go back to here, go up one level, in x64, in the release folder, there's now an AddTwo DLL. This is what we're going to eventually be putting into our plugin. So I'm going to open up and put this into a plugin. We don't have to package it up yet. We can use it as a raw DLL just to experiment with it. So C, we'll go back to Program Files, scroll down to Xojo, and we'll go into Plugins, and I'm going to drag and drop that DLL that we created, and oh, I have one already in there, but I'm going to make sure that I remove this one that's there, and I'm going to copy that one and place it in there because it's a little bit different. Okay, now that it's called AddTwo DLL, I'm going to start up Xojo 2022 r1.1, and it's working. Takes a little bit of time for it to start up, but we're going to confirm that the plugin has actually been installed on Xojo. So I'm going to back out of this one and go back up one more. So AddTwo plug, and in here, so just start it up. which is great. I'm going to copy this directory. I'm going to application name. I'm going to go add to app. I go OK. So great. I'm going to save this. Save as add to app. That's exactly where we want it. Great. Now let's add 2 parts to this. So we have our screen. I'm just going to make it really simple. I'm going to add a button, and I'm going to add a label. So in the button, I'm going to say pressed, which is great. File save. I'm going to double check to make sure that it is that our plugin has been registered. So click on loaded plugins, and it says add to num. Fantastic, it's loading the way that it should. So in our button that's pressed, I'm going to make a variable. We're going to call it an answer as an integer, because that's the type that we were using. We're going to go answer, and what did I call it before? I think it was called add, let's see, add to DLL dot, and the method that we're going to use is add to, and let's use the number, I don't know, 6 and 3. So it's going to take 6, add it to 3 in the add to method from our plugin, and it's going to place it in the answer variable. And let's put it into the answer into our label. Text is equal to answer to string. All right, let's save it and let's run it. So right now it's compiling and it's making sure that it's preparing the plugins. It's trying to get it over here so that way you can see it. And this is 64-bit. So you also want to make sure that in the Windows file that it's set at the default 64-bit. All right, so let's see if it's added it up. Button 9, that's correct. So 6 and 3 is 9. Congratulations, you've just made your first plugin with Visual Studio 2022, and you've used the plugin into a Xojo app that is Xojo 2022 r1.1. Have yourself a great one.